Okay, so today's training is for the field engineers, the ones who will be attending the vessel to install the RedPort. The duration of this training is about 90 minutes, and our agenda for today would be the pre-installation checklist, the network checklist, installation of RedPort CrewCom router, test procedures, troubleshooting, and we will also have a Q&A later in the training. So this is Michael from SMSGlobal. I will be handling your general introduction to the system and the router. And later on, for the technical part and the Q&A part, we will have Wilfred Kasumbal to handle that, which I will hand you over later on. And during the training, if you have any questions, just feel free to interrupt so we can answer your questions right away. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So this is SMSGlobal's CrewCom service on RedPort optimizer routers. The CrewCom Center provides full control of the vessel network, while features are remotely managed from an onshore web portal, centralizing the IT management fleet-wide. So on this aspect, for as far as the web portal is concerned, it will be something that the IT managers onshore would have access to, and also the production engineers. Next, the crews can use any smartphone, tablet, or laptop that's connected to the Wi-Fi network. So it could be an Android or an iOS, and access a range of added value features within the limits set by the ship owner. The RedPort optimizer routers features a range of optional value-added services, vessel email and network administration tools for the vessel's operations. Business applications and the vessel mail system can be routed to have a direct SATCOM internet connection, such as your business email like Amos Connect or IP signature. And you can also include in our what we call captive portal bypass any domain that you would want the crew to have direct access to, like inmarsat.com. So if you include that in our captive portal bypass, the crew would then have direct access to that particular website. Remote network administration system configuration and usage statistics from the onshore portal. It's a cost-effective solution with featured services. Basically, together, RedPort and SMSGlobal provides a complete solution. It's a Wi-Fi access point, it's a firewall, it's also a captive portal and a proxy server, crew and operations all in one unit. Okay? Now, these are the three types of routers that we currently have. We have the Optimizer CrewCom, the Optimizer CrewCom Premier with LTE, and as well as the Optimizer CrewCom Enterprise Plus NSD. Now, the first one, the Optimizer CrewCom, this is what we are currently rolling out, particularly in the OOCL vessels. This has the router feature. Firewall, hotspot, PBX, ideal for voice and email. Tracking and EMEA Plus, manual switching between Wi-Fi, crew, cell, and satellite. This is ideal for up to 20 simultaneous users. Next is our Optimizer CrewCom Premier. It has all the features of the CrewCom, but this has the automatic switching between Wi-Fi, cell, and satellite. And it's also ideal for up to 20 simultaneous crew users plus a business LAN network management. Okay, so this Optimizer CrewCom actually has two networks, one for the crew and one for the business. The third one is what we call Optimizer CrewCom Enterprise Plus NSD. It has all the features of the Optimizer CrewCom and CrewCom Premier LTE. All right, but this one also has the captive portal and caching. It's ideal for 100 plus users. So it also has web, voice, email, tracking, EMEA. So basically, this is a more powerful router compared to the previous two. Okay. Okay, so this is the packaging of the product. Now we go to the pre-installation checklist materials. First, we do require a test laptop, and it's also needed is a unmanaged non-PoE switch to be connected between the Cisco router and the CrewCom router. Okay. Also need the spare cat cables, cable length or continuity tester. We also will be providing the vessel network diagram, Cisco router port assignments for the business network, the crew network, port for TeamViewer access if needed. Also, we need to have the CrewCom router 1 static IP assignment if applicable. Majority of the vessels do have static IP, so definitely that would be needed as part of the checklist. The CrewCom router LAN IP assignment as well. The default is 10.1.5.1, but that can also be changed. So in the event that we need a different LAN IP, that needs to be provided as well. Optional requirement would be an unmanaged non-PoE switch and APs or access points to be connected between the CrewCom router and extension access points. Also optional is booster non-PoE access points to be connected between the CrewCom router and extension APs. Manuals, we will be also providing you the test login ID, the quick user guide, and also for the users how to disable auto join on iOS, as well as the default browser assignment or configuration on Android. Do you have any questions on this slide so far before we move forward? Anyone? Zaki?
It's all good. Okay, no problem.
Okay. Okay, now for the installation procedures. First, the network checklist. Connect a CAT cable from the Cisco router on the designated LAN port to the unmanaged switch, and a CAT cable from the switch to the RedPort router SAT port. It's on the SAT port for the CrewCom optimizer CrewCom router, and SAT2 or SAT2 for the Premier. Okay. Next is to check the CAT cables with the cable tester to ensure that there are no cable breaks or wrong termination. This is very important as well because it really affects how the system will be installed properly. So definitely you will need a cable tester for this. And then connect a laptop directly to the LAN port of the RedPort router. And then for the router installation itself, power on the router. Open a web browser on the laptop, okay? Chrome and Firefox is recommended. As much as possible, please avoid Internet Explorer. We do have some known issues already with Internet Explorer. It's not recommended. So best open Chrome or Firefox. And then you type in dashboard.com or type the actual IP or URL for the dashboard, which is 10.1.5.1/cgi-bin/dashboard.php, provided that the crew LAN IP is set to default. In the event that the crew LAN IP is changed, for example, to 192.168.8.1, then you shall enter the same IP, 192.168.8.1/cgi-bin/dashboard.php, so that you'll get the dashboard page. Okay? All right. Next is to click on the Check Internet button on the dashboard page. The goal is to get a green light on that button. And when the light actually turns green, that means that the router has internet connection. Also, if the router has not been activated, then we have to proceed with router activation. Okay, so we will go through that now. Okay, so we here at SMS Global will actually provide you the vessel ID that you would need for the router activation. And on your end, you would need to go to the dashboard, as I previously explained. And when you log in, your password will be Crewcom Wi-Fi. Now, all of this can only be done and should only be done when you confirm that there is internet connection going through the router if you get a green light on the check internet button. Okay. Once you get a green light on the check internet button, you can now proceed to log in. Password is Crewcom Wi-Fi, all lowercase letters. You go to vessel settings, then vessel information and activation, and you will get this screen. Now, please note that when the router is not yet activated, all the fields that you will see on this screen is blank. Vessel ID will be blank, vessel email address will be blank, as well as everything on this page will be blank. This is where you will put in the unique vessel ID that we here at SMS Global will give you. You put it in the vessel ID field, then you click verify. Upon clicking verify, you will see that the fields will then be populated with all the necessary information with regards to the vessel, such as the vessel email address, captain's email address, and the vessel name. You will also see the vessel ID. Upon doing that, you now click on submit. Okay. Then wait approximately 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, you then go to Crew System Management and Firewall. And then on the upper right-hand side, you click on Synchronize Settings. The router will then fetch the system settings as pre-configured on the vessel pre-activation form and automatically reboot. Okay, now the procedure that I just showed you is with regards to if the router is not yet activated. Okay. Now, upon activation of the router, you then proceed with cross-checking the. You can now test the system by accessing the crewcom.com page. Now, crewcom.com will actually take you to the login page, in which you can then put in the engineer ID, a test ID that we also will be providing you, and then depending on the access control settings, if web browsing is enabled on the vessel, you can then test the speed of the connection by opening a new tab and typing in fast.com. So for a recap of that particular procedure, once the router is activated, okay, you go to crewcom.com, in which you will get the login page. You log in using the ID and password that we will give you. You activate the internet, and then upon activating the internet, you open a new tab or a new browser. Please keep the user interface tab open. Please keep that open. And then you just open a new tab and you type into fast.com to get a speed test. Now, the speed test is to cross-check the speed when the laptop is connected directly to the Cisco router. So you actually have a comparison. What is the speed when connected to the RedPort router, and what is the speed when connected directly to the Cisco router? Okay. And also for documentation purposes, please save the internet connection speed as the test results. So you can actually send us a screenshot of this, so that we'll have it for documentation purposes. After which you can then proceed with installing the access points and do the speed test on each of these. So you will also have a comparison. So it's best to keep a record of the speed test results. Okay. Now the next slide, we'll be talking about the installation or troubleshooting procedures, in which I will hand you over to Wilfred Kasumbal, and he will address all of these questions for you. But before we do that, from my end here, do you have any questions for me? Any questions so far? Jackie or Andy, any questions?
Okay,
No question.
Zach, no questions? Okay, I will now hand you over to Wilfred Kasumbal for the troubleshooting and FAQs. Here we go.
Thank you.
Hi guys, this is Wilfred. Good afternoon again. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear. Yes, I can hear you.
Just let me know at any time if I'm unclear or anything. Okay. Before we go to the Q&A portion, the troubleshooting procedures, I just want to run through the checklist of the installation that the installation manual that we sent out. We have a latest version that we will be showing you showing now. All right. You've seen this document already, right? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. The way we did this checklist, the way we did this manual is basically sequential, which is why to minimize the errors and to minimize any issues that might come up. That's why the first step actually in the installation is we install the unmanaged switch between the Cisco router and the Procom router, and then powering it on. I understand that a lot of times there's a need for urgency, and we tend to just go straight to powering up the router, and then plugging in the cables and everything, right? But in this procedure, this actually is already a proven list of procedures, sequential procedures, because of the experiences that we have encountered, that errors and issues that we have encountered in all the installations that we have previously handled. And we've also proven that following this installation procedures actually minimizes a lot of the issues that are normally encountered. So basically, the thing is to do it sequentially, so that there would be no issues at any step of the way. The checklist of installation procedures actually still also comes up with all the errors and all the troubleshooting steps that we normally encounter. So given that context, and given that you already have seen this installation procedures, we have come up with a list of questions and issues that normally come up during installation, right? And this is the way we did this FAQs is also more or less following the installation procedures that we have. So in the installation checklist, one of the first things that we do there is try. Of course, the premise is to install to install the unmanaged switch first between the Cisco router and the Qualcomm router, and then install a test laptop, connect a test laptop to the Qualcomm LAN port via cable, because this is the most straightforward setup. One laptop connected to the LAN port, connect the one port of the Qualcomm connected to unmanaged switch, the unmanaged switch connected to the Cisco router. This is the most basic setup where there would be very, very minimal errors. By the way, I guess this is the right time to mention this. The unmanaged switch is a required component to be placed between the Cisco router and the Qualcomm router. In one of the installations that we've had, and of course, this is also borne out by feedback from RedPort. We have found some incompatibilities between the Cisco router and the Qualcomm router. And right now, Cisco and RedPort are coordinating in trying to find out where this is happening. So far, there's a lot of indications that it could be drivers, it could be software, it could be a hardware issue. So they are trying to find out right now and studying the issues. But as it is, the workaround right now is to put the unmanaged switch between the Cisco and the Qualcomm. We know for a fact that when this is done, all the other issues that might come up, like no IPs or very slow internet speed, they actually disappear when there's an unmanaged switch. All right. So going back to the FAQs, the setup is the test laptop connected via cable to the LAN router, LAN port of the Qualcomm router, and the Qualcomm router one port connected to the unmanaged switch connected to the Cisco router. One of the first things that we ask to do is to get the IP config for the laptop. This is so that we would be able to establish the connection from the laptop to the router, Qualcomm router, and then onwards to the Cisco router. We've had experiences where there are issues. Like first issue, there is no IP. There is no IP subnet or different IP subnet coming out of Qualcomm router. There are three possible issues for this. One is that the LAN IP is differently configured. Another, the test laptop is connected to a different port. This has also already happened before, where there are wireless connections in the laptop and wired connections in the laptop. And third is if the test laptop is configured with a static IP, which is different from the subnet of the Qualcomm LAN port. This is because this issue comes up because we know that aside from the default LAN IP setting of the Qualcomm router, there are also some fleets that require their own LAN IP subnets. So in this case, it's really a straightforward fix. As you can see in cost number one, if the different LAN IP is configured, we just go back to the vessel network diagram and check what is supposed to be the correct LAN IP assignment for the Qualcomm router. This is in cases where it's the IP is different from the default. The default, of course, is 10.1.5.1. All right, questions so far?
No.
All right.
All okay.
No question.
Okay. Next FAQ is that the laptop is not getting an IP address from the Crewcom router. There are several possible issues for this. One is a broken or loose cable between the Crewcom LAN port and the laptop. Second one is a misconfiguration or mismatch on the Crewcom router's one IP. And the third is a broken Crewcom LAN port and hardware. These are all real and actual results that we've encountered. A lot of times in the previous installations that we've handled, the most prevalent issue is the cable. A lot of times they're loose cables or broken cables or very, very long cables, especially when Cat5 is being used. And once the cables are replaced, issues go away, right? So that's most basic troubleshooting is to just replace the cable. We have continuity testers there anyway, and a lot of times it's really straightforward. Just replace the cable and issues go away. I guess the second issue on the misconfiguration or a mismatch on the Crewcom router's one IP. This happens when, especially when the static, the one IP of the Crewcom router is set to static. There are more cases where the Crewcom one IP is static instead of DHCP. I guess also this is because of fleet policies where they want to have similar IP subnets for across their whole fleet. But a lot of times also there are some oversights when plugging in and or setting the one IPs, the static IPs of the Crewcom router. So this is really again very straightforward. It looks complicated, but it actually is straightforward. The way the Crewcom router is configured is that when there is an issue on a mismatch on the one IPs, you just unplug the cable from the one port of the Crewcom router, and typically the LAN IP and the dashboard would be accessible, so we can reset the IP of the one IP of the Crewcom router. And this is the solution that we have for the second case. And then cost number 3, this is very rare. We've come up with this in one installation, that in spite of all the efforts to change cables or reset one IP of the Crewcom, we found out there was a broken LAN port on the Crewcom router. And we have suspicions that this was caused by PoE devices that were plugged into the LAN ports or the WAN ports. But again, this is also still under investigation by RedPort. But be that as it may, we have had cases where the LAN ports or the WAN port was burned, which is why it wasn't working. So the thing we did is, of course, replace the router. Questions so far?
No question.
All right. Let's move on to the third point. All right. This is the time when we're now trying to access the dashboard of the Crewcom router. On the checklist, this is actually All right, sorry about that. Internet was cut off. All right, let's go to the third item. This is when we're trying to access the dashboard page of the Crewcom router. This is actually step number 5 in our installation checklist. Again, similar to the previous point about the LAN port not being accessible, or the IP addresses are not coming up. There are very similar causes of this issue of the dashboard not being accessible. Broken or loose cables, misconfiguration or mismatch on the Crewcom router's WAN IP, or the Crewcom router is plugged to the wrong Cisco router port assignment. And lastly, the fourth possible cause is that the laptop's DNS query was not resolved by the Crewcom router, because dashboard.com is actually pre-configured inside the router, the Crewcom router, such that it would always go to its default LAN IP setting. All right. First two issues is about broken or loose cables and the misconfiguration of the Crewcom router's WAN IP. This was tackled earlier in point number 2. The third issue is the Crewcom router plugged to the wrong Cisco router port assignment. This has happened several times before, and there were some fleets that have specific assignments of IPs on the Cisco ports, which is why in previous installations where the Crewcom router was supposed to be on port number 4 but was plugged into port number 6, and thus the static IP was not working, and there were some sessions or protocols or IPs that were not allowed on that port, which is why the Crewcom router was not working and the dashboard was not accessible. For the correction of this, for the solution to this, we refer to the vessel network diagram to make sure that the ports are properly connected. And if the dashboard is still not accessible, just reset the Crewcom router via one IP to DHCP. This can be done by also following step number 1 in the previous issue, where you unplug the cables from the WAN port of the Crewcom router, and then just go straight to the IP address 10.1.5.1 and dashboard. This is also the same solution on cause number 4, where the laptop's DNS query does not get resolved by the Crewcom router. Just open another tab in Chrome or Firefox, then type the actual dashboard URL. And then if all else fails, we always highly recommended to reboot the Crewcom router. All right, questions so far?
No question. All good.
Great. Okay, issue number 4 is similar to the dashboard. Dashboard is basically the back end, the administration of the router. Now, the crewcom.com takes you to the login page of the user. This was also mentioned earlier by Mickey. The login page of the users where you input the user ID and the password. When this is not accessible, most typical issue is similar to the earlier issue about on the dashboard also not being accessible. The DNS query of the laptop does not get resolved one way or the other. So the solution is just type directly the URL of the login page. which is 10.1.5.1 colon 3990, the port 3990. Of course, 10.1.5.1 is the default, but the actual LAN IP should be dependent on whatever is the default set by the fleets. All right. Issue number 5 is when you are in the login page, there's a connection error. We take note that there are 2 typical errors on connection that when on the login page or trying to access the dashboard. This is the first one, a connection error, and the second one is actually this one, which is the next issue. The second error is cannot connect to internet. Please check connection or your data credits and balance again. The first error about connection error is that the router is trying to connect to our shore server, which is the accounting server that we have where the users can log in, are supposed to log in. That's why the cost number 1 that we are highlighting is that the connection to the shore servers has timed out. The other issue when we said cannot connect to internet, this one is the billing server where the users log in. Or when this happens when we're trying to activate the internet. This typically happens. So the issue is that the connection request to the radio server onshore is the one that cannot be connected to. Right? So the first one is our shore servers, the accounting servers. The second error is on the radio server, which is the billing server. The other issue is that we've also seen this before, internet connection, the internet, satellite internet connection on the FX is either intermittent or the latency is a bit high. And we've had several instances where it's either rebooting the iDirect modem or rebooting the Cisco router or rebooting the Crewcom router, refreshes the connections and the network and resolves the issues that are normally encountered. Connection errors like this and the next error that we're gonna tackle. This happens typically because of firewall issues, because of latency, and because of sometimes the location of the vessel or the weather conditions. We're aware of that. So that is also taken into account. Internet latency on the FX network. What we recommend is to connect a laptop direct to the Cisco router and then open a tab on Chrome or Firefox and visit fast.com so that we would get an indicative figure on the broadband speed. Typical 300, 400 kbps, it's a bit slow. So the aim here is as close as possible to the MIR of the vessel, the vessel's FX plan, as close as possible to the MIR is what we are looking for. If not, then we have to contact Inmarsat support for this. We've had instances also before where there were issues on, I think, the Cisco 890 in terms of the dashboard of Cisco 890, where patches need to be installed on the 890 because of issues connecting to the FX satellite network. Please refer to the technical support of Inmarsat in this case. And then similarly, we go to the next issue, which is cannot connect to internet, or data credits balance is used up. This is a different issue, although it looks similar. The first one that we tackled, the issue number 5, is actually when the user is trying to log in. This one typically happens, issue number 6, when the user is trying to activate the internet. Mentioned earlier, the first one is when the user is connecting to the accounting server, and this one, issue number 6, is when the user is connecting to our billing server. In this case, it's very, very similar to the previous issue, wherein it's most likely an internet connectivity issue, latency or intermittent connections, or firewall issues. Cost number 2, where we highlight that the user ID is not allowed to use the internet. We have several configurations and settings up to the user level on our source servers. When this happens, just contact us, our support, Crewcom Wi-Fi support, and we can check our Shore billing service and accounting service and correct this issue. All right, questions so far?
No question.
I like you all. There are no questions. I like you all. All right, let's go to the last item, item number 7, when internet is slow when browsing a website or while doing the speed test. This happened before when, again, number 1 is that the connection between the Cisco router and the Crewcom router was unstable because there was no unmanaged switch there, or broken or loose cables. We've seen this happen in China Pioneer. We've seen this happen in OCL Egypt. And when we replace the cables, for instance, with the Cat6 cable, the internet connection became faster. When we placed the unmanaged switch between the Cisco and the Crewcom routers, the connection stabilized. We've also had a recent case where we connected the laptop direct to the Cisco router port, and went to fast.com. The speed was 1.5 megabits per second, and when we connected to the Crewcom LAN port, the speed was 600 kbps. When we replaced the cable, it became the same. The output speed on the Cisco router LAN port and the Crewcom router LAN port became similar or very close to each other, which is about 1.4, 1.5 Mbps. So typical issues caused by this are the unmanaged switch and the cables, broken or loose cables. And we've also had instances where the speed tests or connections are done on the extension access points. We've had instances where typically it's the deck F or deck E or even deck C, where tests are conducted, whereas in the Cisco router in the bridge, the speed is 1.5 MB, but on deck C or deck E, the speed is only 200 kbps. This could be expected given that the distance between the bridge and the deck C is probably closer to 40 to 50 meters, which is at the border of the limits of the cables, the physical cables, especially if it's Cat5. The solution to this is also very straightforward. Check the cables for connectivity, and install signal boosters or 8 switches from the Crewcom router LAN port going down to the extension APs. All right. Any questions?
No question.
Thank you, sir. You've been a very great audience. I'll turn you over again back to Mickey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gentlemen, hello. So yeah, so that actually concludes our training for today. We will send you a summary of all the items that we have tackled today, as well as the updated version of the checklist for your reference. And if you have any questions, feel free to send us an email at crewcomwifi@smsglobal.net, or you can reach us to our WeChat and WhatsApp IM apps. Also, in the event that any of you will be attending vessel installations, it is custom that we create a group chat together with our engineers and with you, of course, on the group chat, so that we will be able to provide real-time support for you guys whenever you are attending vessels and for the RedPort installations on board. Do you have any questions?
All good from my side. Thank you.
All right then. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your efforts today, and you have a great day.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.